And welcome to day 2 of the 5-day Freaked Out to Fearless Puppy Challenge with me, Mira Poppins. I am doing this on the move today because a couple of weeks ago I really hurt my back and it's just been twisted again. So, like the old woman that I am, I'm approaching 35 next week and my body's telling me, reminding me that I'm getting old now. So I thought I'd go for a nice walk, stretch my back a little bit, and also take you through day 2 of the challenge, which is all about puppy barking. Something I get a lot of questions about, and I've deliberately called this all bark, no bite. So I hope that you can hear me okay, because I am walking and there is a little bit of traffic down the left hand side of me. So I'll just sneak over here, hopefully be a little bit quieter. So the first thing that I really want to tell you is that puppy barking in general, and just dog barking, even if you've got an older dog and a puppy, it's just communication. That's all it is. It's communication. It's not really a big mystery. You know, puppies bark, dogs bark. And the reason they bark is because they're communicating different things at different times, depending on what's happening around them and how they're feeling about it. In the same way that when we shout, it's still communication, it's just a different kind of communication. And when your puppy barks, it's the same thing, it's communication. So bear that in mind as I run you through day 2 of the challenge, and try and approach this with an open mind, because maybe your puppy's been barking a lot recently, or they've started barking, or it's getting worse and you're feeling a bit frustrated. A little bit fed up. Maybe you're looking for a quick fix, something that will instantly solve all your puppy barking problems. Unfortunately, it doesn't quite work like that, but I will do my best to guide you through everything. So bearing that in mind, there's something else that I want to say to you before we get started with the nitty-gritty of today's challenge, and that is, I don't care how much your puppy barks, how annoying it is or how frustrating it is. There is never ever any reason to use aversive training equipment to stop your puppy from barking. Suppressing your puppy's natural, or you might think unnatural, urge to bark is really dangerous, and I'm going to tell you why. A couple of months ago, I had a lady contact me who had a very barky puppy, and she'd been putting up with the barking for weeks, months and months. It was getting worse, it was constant, it was all the time. Her nerves were absolutely shot from puppy barking. She couldn't even go about her usual day-to-day activities because the puppy's barking was that bad. She felt like she was just completely stressed out by it. And even something as simple as going out into the garden when we had nice weather was a really stressful experience, because her puppy would bark at every single noise he heard. Now, of course, I can empathise with my client, and it's really, it's a tough situation to be in. It's a really stressful thing. And of course, if you're already, anxious and on edge, every time your puppy barks, it just reinforces your own, like, oh my God, this is so annoying. And in the end, she got so desperate for help that she actually purchased a spray collar for him. Now, the way that these spray collars work is that you attach them to your puppy's neck, and every time they bark, it activates something inside the collar and it releases a waft of really toxic citronella spray. It's a little bit like me tying a Glade air freshener around your neck, and whenever you do something I don't like, I press a button and you get a big waft of, like, I don't know, cherry blossom or something right up your nose, right into your face. Not very pleasant, is it? No, it's really not unpleasant, and physically it can cause, obviously, side effects. It's really unpleasant having something like that sprayed up your nostrils. Psychologically as well, what's actually happening when you do this to your puppy, and it doesn't have to be a spray collar, it could be a slip lead, a head collar, a prong collar, a shock collar, it could be spraying water in their face, it could be shaking like a bottle filled with stones in their face. All these different things that people will tell you to do that are aversive has the same effect. The first thing that it does is that it will increase your puppy's stress levels. It will put them into a state of chronic stress. Not sure what's happening with my camera here. It will put them into a state of chronic stress. And what does that mean? It means that they're going to do more of the behaviours that you already don't like. So if your already stressed out puppy is really panicking because you put this thing around their neck, of course they're going to want to bark more to begin with, and then when they realise that every time they bark they're going to get punished for it in a really nasty way, they're going to start barking. And you might think, great, I've solved the problem, cost me 20 quid, didn't need a trainer, I am brilliant, all good. You're wrong. You're absolutely wrong, because what you've actually done is taken away your puppy's ability to communicate with you. You've taken away their voice, and you've put yourself in a really dangerous position whereby your puppy might actually be more at risk of biting you or behaving aggressively, and I mean aggressively, not just, being a bit overly mouthy or that kind of thing, because you've suppressed their natural behaviour. You've taken away their voice, you've taken away their ability to communicate, and you are left with a ticking time bomb. Now you might think I'm exaggerating, or that, what would I know? Well, I know a lot. I'm a professional puppy trainer. I've been doing this for quite a long time. I've studied, I've worked really hard, I've worked under really, really good professionals as well, where I've learned all my puppy training information from. I'm not just reading off a Google sheet. Look, this is what I've got, my handwritten page of notes, so I remember to tell you everything. Please do not ever use aversive training equipment. There is nothing good to be gained from them, and they don't work. So after I worked with that particular client on her puppy's barking, she actually turned around and said to me at the end of our training, she said to me, I never thought that a tube of squeezy cheese would change my life in the way that it has. Now, it wasn't just the squeezy cheese that we used. We did do a lot of difficult training alongside, but it just goes to show you don't need to buy these stupid things to help your puppy, especially if they're barking because they're nervous, anxious or fearful. I think I made myself pretty clear on that one, but if you have any questions, send me an email or comment on the video and I will get back to you. I'm more than happy to help. Next thing I want you to think about is understanding your puppy's barking, okay? Now this traffic is getting quite loud, so I'm going to pause this for a second and I'm going to start again in a minute, okay? Okay, hopefully that's a little bit better now. As I was saying, I want you to understand the reasons for your puppy barking. Now I want you to do a little bit of homework here, so if you want to go grab a pen and a piece of paper, I'll pause this for a second so you can make some notes. First thing I want you to do is identify some triggers. Okay, what causes your puppy's barking? Is it the arrival of the postman? Is it when you have a delivery? Is it when you're watching TV and a dog comes on TV or an animal comes on TV? Is it when you're chilling out, they hear a noise and they have to go and react to it? What is causing your puppy to bark? Now you might be thinking everything. You might think he barks for everything. He barks for attention, he barks for food, he barks to play, he barks to say hi to people, he barks to say hello to other dogs. Write it down. Yeah, I know it might sound like a silly exercise to do, but there is a reason behind the madness. Write it down. Write all of it down. So anything that triggers your puppy and causes them to bark, I want you to write it all down, and then I want you to start keeping a diary of how often it happens. Okay, so if your postman comes once a day, that might trigger a reaction 5-6 days a week. Okay, write this down, it's really important. And you're going to start seeing a pattern, okay, between the triggers and the barking behaviour the puppy is showing. The next thing I want you to do is to try and understand the different types of barks. Now you might think, well, it all just sounds the same, but often it's not. Often there's different reasons why puppies will bark, and the actual barking will indicate that. So when I was doing my teenage training trek on Saturday, there was a gorgeous German Shepherd that came along. She's absolutely lovely, I adore her to bits, but she's quite barky sometimes. And during the course of our trek, she actually barked a couple of times for different reasons. And as we were going along, I was explaining to her owners the different meanings behind her barking. One bark towards other dogs was clearly saying, go away, don't come any closer, I'm not interested in you approaching me. Another couple of barks were more whiny barks. They were much lower pitched. She wasn't showing any stress. And these barks meant, why are we all standing around chatting? We've got work to do. Come on, let's get on with it. So there really are lots of different reasons as to why your puppy's barking and what each different bark means. It might be that your puppy barks for their food, if you're not quick enough putting their food out, because they like the impulse control just to wait for their meals, although to be fair, so do I sometimes, so I kind of understand it. Lots of different reasons why they might bark, and it's your job to start to understand what the different barks mean, which ones you need to react to and the ones that you could ignore. okay? Because if your puppy's barking out of fear or anxiety, you don't want to ignore that barking, okay? You want to understand the reason for it, the behaviour behind it, and then you want to address it, okay? Whereas if they're barking because they're hungry and you've taken too long to put their food out, this might be a one-off thing. It's not as serious, if that makes sense. Something else that I want to say as well, whilst you're doing all these exercises and you're doing this homework that I've recommended to you, I want you to try and manage your own stress levels as well, because a lot of the time what happens is people get really embarrassed when their puppy's barking in public. I've seen this a lot. I'm just going to switch hands because my arm is killing me. I've seen this happen a lot when I've been out doing training walks, I've been doing puppy consults, when I've been out with people doing different things with them. Somebody's out walking their puppy, their young dog, their teenage dog, the puppy starts barking. Immediately the person holding the lead gets really embarrassed and is like, be quiet, shush, be quiet, no, that's enough, stop it now, shut up, oh my god, stop barking. And the more the puppy barks, the more stressed out they get, and the more they start trying to suppress the puppy barking, which just makes things worse in most cases. So whilst it's completely natural to feel embarrassed if your puppy's barking their heads off in public and you just want the ground to swallow you up, try not to care what people think. I know that's really easy for me to say, but most of you will have seen me out in Penwitham last year when I had Theo, who was my great big 36 kilo muzzled greyhound, and you can imagine walking around Penwitham, which can be a little bit, well, you know what I mean. Walking around Penwitham, you know, I did get a lot of judgmental stares, a lot of people staring, a lot of people pointing, children commenting, parents saying things like, that dog will bite you. And there were some days where I was a bit more sensitive to it. It felt like a criticism that he was muzzled. Yet nobody really asked why, what the reason was. And it was because he was an ex-racing greyhound that had been abused in the racing industry for over 5 years. And he'd picked up behaviours as a racing dog that weren't compatible with being a pet dog. So you have to really get a really thick skin here, okay? You have to not care what people think. And a bit like when you're driving as well, you can be responsible for your behaviours, your puppy's behaviours. You can't control what other people are doing. And this brings me to my next point, all about managing environments. So if you know that your puppy is really, you've done your homework and you found a trigger, and you know that your puppy gets really scared and barks when they're in areas where there's lots of off-lead dogs, the last thing you want to do is go and get your puppy used to being around off-lead dogs, because you're just stressing them out. You're putting them in a really difficult, stressful situation that they don't need to be in. And if you've watched video 1, you'll understand why we don't do this to our dogs, we don't do this to our puppies, because they don't need to get used to whatever is scaring them straight off the bat like that. Okay, there is a process behind this. There is a reason why we don't take scared puppies out to face the things that they're afraid of without a desensitization and counter conditioning plan at the same time. Now, these might sound like really big scary words and you're thinking, what the hell does that mean? Great question. I will explain that a little bit later on in the challenge, but for now I have a little bit more homework for you to do. Now you found out what the triggers are, so what causes your puppy to bark, what causes them to bark in a way that indicates that they're feeling afraid or they're feeling stressed. What I want you to do is I want you to teach them an incompatible behaviour, okay? So if your puppy has a habit of running to the front door every time the postman arrives and barking their heads off at the postman, what I want you to do is to find an incompatible behaviour, which means that when your doorbell rings or when the post comes through, your puppy goes and does something completely different. Now, this could be running to their bed, waiting for a treat. It could be fetching one of their toys. It could be sitting and waiting for a treat. It could be anything that you want them to do that's incompatible with them running to the door and barking. If your puppy's sitting in the hallway nicely waiting, or if they've run to their bed, they can't be running up at the front door scaring the life out of the postman, can they? So teaching the incompatible behaviour is one way to manage a stressful, barky situation, okay? Now, in real life, when you're actually out on a walk and your puppy starts barking like mad, Possibly you're too close to the thing that's scaring them. If you're too close to a trigger and this causes barking, what you need to do is be taking steps back. We talk about the 3 Ds in puppy training, and those 3 Ds are distance, duration and difficulty. Okay, so if you're too close to something, this could trigger a lot of barking. If you're not showing your puppy clearly what you want them to do, this could cause a lot of difficulty in your puppy understanding what they're supposed to be doing to start barking. And if you're practicing for too long and you're making your training sessions like 30, 40, 50 minutes long and you're not giving your puppy any breaks, you're actually making it really hard for them to process the training that you're trying to do with them. So those are the 3 Ds that we talk about, and I want you to think about these when your puppy's barking, okay? And I will just say, because this is going on to 15 minutes now, that if you're using rewards to teach your puppy that silence is what you want from them, and you're rewarding them when they're quiet, a lot of people struggle with this because they say to me, well, am I not just rewarding my puppy for barking? It depends on your timing. This is really, really important here. If your puppy barks and then you immediately give them a reward, they might think, well, actually, I'm going to get a treat for being quiet now. So they might bark, be quiet, get a reward. Timing is really key. So what I would do if my puppy was barking because they were scared or nervous, I would actually build in a cue. So I would actually teach my puppy to be quiet. You can teach your puppy to speak and you can teach them to be quiet. What you want to be doing is being really, really careful with your timing here and making sure that you reward the silence. So at the beginning you might want to reward them when they've barked and they're quiet, and you say quiet, good boy, good girl, and then you reward, rather than just giving them a treat straight away, because you might end up with a puppy that barks so they get a treat afterwards. So these are the things I wanted to share with you about barking. Now, not every single bark will be because your puppy's fearful or anxious, but I've just outlined some of the main issues here, and I hope this has been helpful and it's giving you a starting point of where to begin, because sometimes it can feel overwhelming. You might think, well, I don't know where to start because this behaviour's been going on for ages, I don't know what to try, or I've tried everything, nothing's working. You have to be very patient as well. Changing behaviour doesn't happen overnight, so you need to change sometimes environment, habit, understanding and context as well in order to see the real progress that you want to. Now, if you think, well, all this sounds great, but I don't actually know what to do, which is completely fine, completely valid, you can get in touch with me for some private puppy training consultations. I have limited spaces coming up in October, November. So if you want to work with me and get some one-to-one help, because you think, well, this all sounds brilliant, but I'm a bit worried about getting it wrong, I'm not sure if I'm going to do it right, I'd like to have a professional trainer on my side to hold my hand, guide me through it, I'm here for you, okay? If you do want to book in some private puppy training, just go onto my website, which is mirapuppins.co.uk. There is a contact button at the end of the navigation menu on the homepage. Just click contact. I'll ask you to fill in a consultation form and to book in a free call with me, and that's it. There's no obligation to book anything afterwards. It's just a chance for you to talk to me, tell me what you're struggling with, let me know how I can help you, and we can take everything from there. And as you know already, I only practice positive training techniques, which means no shouting, no nasty punishments, no hurting your puppy or any of that nonsense. So I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts about today's challenge video. Let me know what you liked. Was it helpful? Is there anything that you want me to answer in more detail? Do you have any questions? All your feedback's really appreciated, and it really does help me to tailor this challenge so that you can make the most out of it. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about the F word, not that F word. We're going to be talking about fireworks. Now I know this is a big one that you've been waiting for, so that one's coming tomorrow. Okay, enjoy the rest of your evening and I will see you tomorrow.